suffering is real. I have a whole new system just waiting for the new card.
Yeah.
And
it looks
whatever.
amazing. Looks amazing.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
All right. So, without further ado, welcome everybody to the Art-Wodcast. I'm joined today by none other than my good friend, my buddy, my mentor, Adam Duff. Welcome,
hello,
Adam.
Hello. Thank you for having me, as usual.
Welcome. You might know Adam from the Lucid Pixel mentorship that he runs. He is now the official art father of YouTube with his Adam Duff Lucid Pixel YouTube channel. So definitely check that out after this video. Adam has been in the game for a very long time, over 20 years, if I'm not mistaken, Adam.
Yeah, unfortunately, that shows my age. Yeah.
Didn't want to call out your age, but you have experience, right?
No, you got me.
So he has gone through this different stage of junior artist to senior artist, art director, and anything in between. He's dabbled in concept art, animation, etc. So a guy with a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge to share, and it's my pleasure to introduce Adam.
Well, thank you very much, Antonio. Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good. A little bit less dramatic a week after almost thinking that I set my brand new computer on fire.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Set up. I got everything set up. Everything was good, but I had one little non-proprietary SATA cable, a Molex cable, that fried 9 RGB fans. They just went like that, and smoke came out of my computer. I had a panic attack. I thought I fried my processor.
Another panic attack.
Yeah, so I had basically overloaded the controller, so I had thank God for Amazon. I returned all 9 fans, and we're all set now. We're good.
And what was that due to video editing or?
No, it was that it was my first time turning on. I was just powering on the machine for the first time to see if it would post, and the actual control. It's called the Commander Pro.
Right.
I had it plugged into the wrong type. It wasn't a proprietary power supply SATA cable.
Okay.
So it overvolted it.
Right.
And it literally, I turned it on, all of my lights went like that, and then smoke came out. And I went, oh my God.
Just after you built it.
Yeah, it was a nightmare. But then when I used my nose and I did a little detective work, I figured out that that's what I fried. So I was like, thank God for that.
Yeah, thank God for that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wow. So we're all good. She's up and running and she looks good. So
happy. Well, if I see smoke appearing again, then we know what's up.
We'll know it's a podcast.
Yeah. So usually what I like to start off a question with to all the guests in the podcast is like, what kind of drew you as a person to visual development? And just the aspect of visual development, what intrigued you the most about it?
Okay. Well, I do come from an artist background. I was raised by an artsy mom who actually studied fine arts, which is why I originally got into fine arts, despite realizing later on that I was more of an illustrator.
Yeah.
And my path to kind of self-discovery and the specific kind of artist I ended up becoming was not a beaten path. It wasn't like, this is what I want to do. I didn't have that stroke of fate when I was 15. I'd say that I really discovered the facet of art that I was most passionate about probably 10 years into my career, at least. I dabbled in 3D. I did environment art. I did character art. I did flash animation, all that kind of stuff. And when it all came around, when everything came around in the end, I realized what my niche was. And that was kind of right now, what it is kind of like the dark fantasy art, mostly character focused kind of stuff. Okay. Yeah. And the animation definitely played a role in the fact that I went the character route, because I'm very much, I'm fascinated with people and character development and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely tells. And that kind of leads into my other question, that like the 10 years prior to finding your, let's say, style or intrigues, do they feel, or do some parts of it feel like lost years, or do they all have fed into what made you the artist today?
That's a really good question. I'd say for a long time, I felt like it was lost years.
Okay.
I felt like, in some cases, I would say certain things were lost years in the sense that they weren't helping me build my portfolio. They weren't building my career in the path I wanted to go, because it was more about just chasing after a paycheck and trying to be marketable and having skills. And I even talk about this a lot. I'm going to be talking about that in my video this week. Nice. Not published yet, but just talking about chasing after what other people wanted all the time. You know, this company wants 3D, this company wants Flash, this company wants After Effects, this company wants Premiere, and it's kind of constantly rebranding myself all the time. And I got sick of it. I just got tired. I think that 10-year mark was when I started to feel like I was burning myself out with reinventing myself. And in that regard, there were certain jobs that I felt like, you know, like doing Flash animation, you know, Dora game or something like that, you know. I can't, and that's literal, by the way, not figurative. But if I look at that football head again, I'm going to shoot myself. But it was chasing after a paycheck. Yes, I was gaining some professional experience. I was learning how to find clients and stuff like that. But in the big scheme of things, I probably wouldn't have done those particular jobs because I think they weren't really pushing my career.
Right.
But a lot of the other things I learned really, I mean, like it or not, they really contributed a lot to my career, like learning 3D.
Exactly.
At first, I was reluctant to do it. I felt like I was forced into it because 2D was really suffering. There was no work. But that got me a job as a director. That got me my first job as a teacher. And that in turn led to where we are today, where I'm teaching in art. Now, I'm not teaching 3D, but it definitely contributed in a good way to the career, albeit it was a bullet I had to bite.
Yeah.
You know, it felt that way at the time, but I am definitely grateful for that. And it also contributes to my artistic approach.
Exactly.
Because bringing 3D and now photography and videography skills into traditional art is humongous. Yeah. And I benefit a lot from that for sure.
Yeah. I think people that are listening to this and then watch your videos, they can sort of really take that on as some sort of a motivator that not all years are lost, because a lot of artists sometimes feel like they're lost, right? Or they're doing a dead-end job. Even if they're doing art, they feel like they're lost. But I think, like, even from my experience, like, even just the shit that I've gone through in life, it contributes to what makes you become an artist. And I think it also contributes to your authenticity as an artist, which is sometimes harder to embrace. And it's something interesting that you said about chasing companies. Kind of shortcuts me to another topic. But like in this day and age, what I feel that we're doing is chasing social media and audiences. And like, funny enough, and this is gonna make me pretty unpopular, but my recent Instagram posts have all been like a social experiment where I chase the most popular thing, the most popular topic, right? Which in my mind gives me, it's minimum effort, but it gives me maximum result, right? And not only for the likes, but also just for my business, which kind of puts you in the dilemma as an artist. Like, do I chase the mainstream, which is good for my income, for my business, for whatever, or do you hold on to that authenticity, right? And where do you find that balance?
Yeah, that's wow. I love the fact that you said that. And the reality is, I mean, you and I are people. We're artists. We have real lives. We have real loves. We have real passions. We have, you know, and we ultimately, as any artist, we want to be ourselves.
Yes.
Right? We want to be able to express who we are. But now it's social media, but you could say exactly the same thing for, you know, popularity, for TV, for celebrity.
Yes.
Celebrity has trends. Celebrity has algorithms. And those algorithms are saying, well, if you want to get a lot of clicks, then this is what everybody's talking about. So make a video on that. Like I could very easily have posted yet another video on some drama happening in the artistic industry. I only get involved in that if it's personal. Right. And I only get involved in that if I really think that like a voice needs to be heard. But I could very easily ride the coattails of what's popular because I know that I'm going to get a crap ton of clicks. Not only will I get clicks, I'll get better remuneration from Google for doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
And not only that, but also doing reviews of products.
Yes.
I want to bring people to my site by doing product reviews of different drawing tablets and stuff like that. And I did do it. And it came to a point where I felt like I was completely going against my authentic self. It was forcing me to be a bullshitter.
Yeah.
It was forcing me to pretend to be interested in something that I authentically wasn't. It was me pretending to care for a product that I didn't want because I wanted a free product. And so I decided for my last one just to say, no, can't recommend. It's a piece of shit. Buy nice or buy twice. And I never heard back from him again, non-surprisingly, right?
Of course.
And the same thing that applies to drama. I know what's hot and I know what's not. And I'm making a sacrifice, a conscious sacrifice, not jumping on that trend. With that said, there's also the smart person. There's also, I have the advantage of having had jobs and have some kind of support socially by what I've done, by the fact that I've directed for big companies and I've worked on interesting projects. So as much as I might hate on what makes a person popular, which I'm not, your career sometimes kind of depends on that. And the fact that you're being smart about it and the fact that you are doing this social experiment is necessary because it's building a brand, it's building a name. And in the end, you will eventually be able to abandon that and become your more authentic self. But sometimes you just have to respect your audience. You just have to respect what's popular at the time. And that's not a sin. It's being smart. Yeah. It's respecting the algorithm. It's respecting what's popular because that's who's watching your stuff. Right. So yeah.
That's also kind of the trend that I see happening. And especially it's being highlighted with this pandemic situation is that the more that we digitalize ourselves, the more that the networking process of what used to be networking, going to events, talking with art directors in person, now this networking kind of gets compressed to social media, right? Because you're only getting noticed through that platform. Which kind of gives artists the incentive to, okay, maybe I should follow some form of mainstream to get my networking going. Right. So it feels like a very thin balance these days. And it's like you said, you have that experience. There's years of experience behind you. That network that you have cultivated through your 20 years of experience. You can rely on that. But beginning artists, I can definitely sense, and I even consider myself a beginning artist because I'm only in this industry for 3 years, is that we kind of need that platform. To become visible in of course in a certain way.
You can't deny that. So as do I, by the way. If nobody knows who I am, then I can't run my business. The only place that people get to know about my mentorship and about all my stuff is through YouTube, through my YouTube videos. That's it. I don't spread myself out all over the place. I'm very minimal. You know me. I'm very minimal on other social platforms. You really dedicate yourself to that. So absolutely. It's necessary. And without it, it's kind of like, think about it like just breaking through the surface.
Right.
You got to break through the surface. Now, once that happens, I will give you a flip side to that. And it's something that people are very surprised to hear me say. Because the majority of people who know who I am today on my channel have only known me for about 6 months. And the reason being is, you know this, right? Yeah. We've spoken about this a lot of times, but a lot of people don't realize that, my channel is over 8 years old.
Yes.
And at the beginning of 2020, I had around 23,000 subs. And that's going to be a big shock to a lot of people because now I'm hitting almost 110 subs.
Yes.
So that means between, think about it, in an 8-year span, I made 23,000 subs.
Yes.
That's, by today's standards, abysmal.
Yes.
Did I give a shit? No, I didn't care. But what changed? Was it because I discovered the algorithm? Was it because I figured out what was trendy? Actually, it was the complete opposite.
That's very true.
I applied a very important art lesson to my channel. In art, I had to discover myself. I had to discover my true authentic voice. But as a YouTuber for that first 8 years, I was trying to be a YouTuber.
Yeah.
Creating content, tutorials, talking about hot topics, changing the way I do cut edits to everything to keep everything snappy, trying to keep things within a 13-minute span or whatever, that kind of idea. And I decided at a certain point, no, my audience are artists. I'm not doing a tech review for a pair of headphones. I'm an artist, and I'm trying to create an environment that's conducive for artistry. Yes. I want to speak in a tone that I like to be in when I'm in a meditative kind of painting zone. And that's what I decided to do. So sometimes my videos are 15 minutes, sometimes they're 45, and I don't care. But to me, I decided I wanted to create a thoughtful and emotional environment for people to be inspired artistically, along with the message that I'm sharing. Yeah. And that's when things transformed. That's when things took off. And that required me to give a big middle finger to the algorithm.
Right.
Now, that's all I did. I didn't do anything. I didn't focus on anything else but that. And that did definitely make a difference. So there's something to be said about doing what's true to you too.
Yes.
Right? Because I've known you for long enough now to know that you're an incredibly deep human being. You're thoughtful, you're professional, the way you are with your wife, and there's so much to you. And I know that, I don't know how you would feel about being that candid as a person with your audience. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
It's a tough question. Like to what you're saying, like to kind of play devil's advocate to what you're saying. Like what it boils down to is that you became your most authentic self, even on the social platform, right? And people very much connect with that. I get that. I connect with that. But I feel like as developing artists, we almost always tend to put on a mask. Just because, well, for one, we're still learning, and we're usually emulating a lot of artists that we like, which already puts on that mask. Even if we're still ourselves, we haven't found our authenticity in our art. Yeah. So becoming very authentic on a social platform becomes really hard in the beginning. So I don't know. I would argue what you would recommend to people or beginners to kind of do find that balance there. I think to some degree, I have always had the attitude that I really don't care about social media in the aspect of becoming popular. I never strive to be popular. Never, ever. I always strive to, especially now that I'm a teacher with Art-Wod, to give the people the best information that they can have. And it's not always in the prettiest package or the most flashy package. But the people that are part of the program really appreciate it. Yeah. And that's something that keeps me motivated to keep going. Even if it's 5 members, even if it's 2,000 members, I don't care. That does give me that, sense of fulfillment. Even if I get a lot of negativity from other people, just the 3 people that absolutely love what I'm doing, that gives me the motivation to keep going. Yeah. But again, that's something that I found now 3 years later into my career, and a very intensive career, if I might add to that. Yeah. And there are people that are, not ramping up as hard as I am in the industry, and that's completely fine. But I wonder what advice you would give them to kind of not steer away from their authenticity completely.
You'd think that could be misinterpreted as, like, if somebody was to give you that advice of finding your most authentic self, that might be interpreted as avoid influence, right? Avoid being over-influenced by social media, which there's truth to that, absolutely. I find that it can be very damaging, particularly for artists that are still trying to find a voice and they don't feel like they're that good yet. You overwhelm yourself with great talent, and it can be incredibly exhausting and demotivating. I know even if you're somebody who's more experienced, right? Yeah. I mean, I've been doing this for a while, but when I look at the breadth of talent online, it's very easy to feel like a complete imposter. It was so enlightening to hear Ahmed say that when I did the podcast with him. It's just, wow, you feel imposter
exactly.
syndrome?
Yes.
You?
I had the same reaction. Like, what?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah. It was very empowering to hear somebody in his position say something like that. And so no, you don't want to avoid influence.
Yes.
I found that it's not about avoiding influence, it's about finding the right influence.
Yes.
And the way to do that is that you have to pay attention to how you feel when you're searching for reference online or when you're researching other artists online. You don't want to just look at a great artist and say, okay, I want to do that. You want to gravitate towards artists that when you look at their work, it makes you want to paint and it makes you better at art. Yes. You have to find artists that, it's like music. You have to find a rhythm in their art that's compatible with your own.
Yes.
Like I can see you have Leyendecker behind you and you have all these, you've got all these great portrait artists. I know from your art, I look at your art and I can see how that feeds you.
Yeah.
Artistically, because you get Leyendecker. He resonates with you, right?
Yes.
And I do the same thing with artists with visual storytelling, with Rockwell and Frazetta and Beksinski and Del Toro. Sometimes it's not even artists. It could be Del Toro or different, music composers. It's a rhythm that resonates with me. And I focus on them when I'm painting. They keep me in my zone. And then once that's over and I'm finished, I hang up my brush and everything like that. From that point, I can go and start oohing and awing all the great artists out there. But I avoid them. I avoid those other artists when I'm painting because it literally pulls the rug out from under me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really about finding the right reference, in my opinion, finding the right inspiration.
Yeah, that's a very, very good piece of advice because up until recently, I did that wrong, I think.
Yeah.
I was chasing artists that I thought I should chase.
Yeah.
Whilst getting frustrated. And I think you said that piece of advice in an earlier one of your YouTube videos. And when I heard that, that just clicked because I really remember seeing some artists like Leyendecker or Carl Kapinski or Kim Young-ji these days. And they just make me want to draw. They're not demotivating me to draw.
Yeah,
that's a really big difference, and it's something. Sometimes it's a hard balance to find because, like, sometimes you think like, "Wow, this is the standard. This is what I gotta do," and it demotivates you to start drawing. And then there's artists, even though if they're equally good or even better, you just look at their work and like, "Wow, I want to draw like that," or that makes me want to draw subjects like that. Yeah, it's a really good. Yeah, it's a good piece of advice.
I compare it to having to dance partner. You know, you go to a club, there's great music playing and everything like that, and there's a bunch of people and you're asking different people to dance and stuff like that. I'm not talking about regular clubs, I'm talking about like salsa and stuff like that. And some people you dance with, there's kind of like 3 tiers of relationship that you can have with a different dancer. You can have ones that there's just no compatibility. Your rhythm, the weight, the connection is just not there. And it ruins the song. I mean, we're talking about extreme cases. Other ones where it's cordial and acceptable and, you have a good dance, you thank each other and you walk away. Other people, the moment you take their hand, sparks fly.
Right.
And it's just the rhythm, the way your body moves and the way you move together, it flows. The partnership you have with your inspiration, with who you're sharing that artistic space with, can make or break you. It can bring out the best in you, or it can completely strangle your mind, depending on that. So you have to really see it that way, in my opinion. There's a relationship and a rhythm that goes with it. Right. Yeah.
All right.
In a more romantic way of saying it, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but even talking about dancing, because you and I are pretty passionate about physical things, whether it's dancing, training, or whatever. And I always like to draw parallels with art. That's why I created Art-Wod. And I'm curious to see that what has physical training or dancing or whatever helped you in your artistic endeavors, just in your career? Like what lessons did you take from that aspect of training and put it into your artistic training? Is there anything specific?
I love talking to somebody who's a physical trainer like you, somebody who's big in fitness as well. I can't stress enough on a fundamental level how important and necessary it is for me. I find that the basic lack of physical activity causes your emotions, your stresses, your thoughts to overwhelm you. And I find it's one of the main benefits is that on an emotional level, you're purging a lot of these distracting thoughts, and it allows you to just exhaust yourself. And then I usually meditate after that, and then I get into work. And so I'm completely focused when I go in because I don't have that excess buildup of energy. The other thing that I find is on a physical level, it just the lack. It takes away from the physical pains. It takes away from the stiffness, the discomfort that can come from long drawing sessions. And from an academic level, I very much intersect physical training with artistic anatomical training.
Yes.
So for me, how I draw is a very direct reflection on the muscles and where the insertion points and how things move and the articulations of the body. All of that plays into how I draw the human form.
Yes.
And when I'm training, I'm visually aware of my body. And when I'm drawing, I'm visually aware of you get the idea.
Yeah.
Right? I think I'm doubling that up there.
It's one of the first things that you advised me to do. By the way, is you early on you caught on that I was interested in character design.
Yeah.
And as soon as I said that, the first thing that you said was I was drawing characters from reference all the time, looking at reference. And you asked me, like, did you ever act out one of the poses that you wanted to draw? I was like, never did that. And you're like, you need to do that. It's just getting that in touch with and now I do it all the time. Yeah. Like I'll be sitting next to my wife will be sitting here next to me and I need a pose. I'm like, in some weird way. And it just helps you.
You need some time, Antonio.
Yeah.
Like, it's not what it looks like. I said.
I'm just for art. Yeah, but it really helps you connect and breathe that extra bit of life, I think, into your characters.
You are saying something huge. I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off because
go ahead.
Because you just opened up a topic that's becoming huge to me. From my background, I was speaking with one of my students, and she was telling me about. I mentioned in one of my talks this neuroscientist who was talking about basically how the brain influenced the body and everything like that.
Right. Yeah.
He was talking about these different experiments that they had done, where they got a group of people, regular people, to look at facial expressions, very specific facial expressions. They got them to describe it.
Okay.
So they described it very accurately. Most people described it very accurately. Then they did exactly that same experiment with people who had undergone Botox treatments, injections in their face. Now, Botox, I realized during this lecture, means botulism toxicity, botulism being the most toxic, most powerful neurotoxin to the human body. So it literally paralyzes the face.
Wow.
But it creates nice smooth skin. Right?
Yeah.
And he did the same experiment, and people who had undergone Botox treatments had a much harder time reading specific facial expressions and describing them. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, this is an experiment that followed another experiment where he had hooked probes up to people's faces and had them look at different facial expressions and to check their neural activity when they observed other people. And they realized that when observing a facial expression, your brain sends those same neural signals to your face as well. Okay? Wow. So if I look at you and I go, "The hell are you looking at, boy?" Right? Your face is going to make those same little subconscious triggers.
So we're mimicking in a way.
You're mimicking, but this is one of the very big parts of empathy. You feel what other people feel physically, not just mentally.
Wow.
So from a cartoonist perspective and from a character designer's perspective, you look at something like look at a Chuck Jones animation, Looney Tunes. Look at a Looney Tunes animation and freeze frame it, just frame by frame it. And if you look at something like Duck Amuck, if you look at the expressions that they're making, they're in no way, shape, or form physically possible to the human body and face. But they feel like those emotions. Animators, if I look in a mirror and try to mimic my facial expression in a character, I can't achieve what the character is going to have. But what I do when I'm practicing facial expressions, or I'm getting my body up to do an expression, is I'm feeling the pose.
Right.
Somebody's going, what are you looking at?
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Yeah.
and I'm feeling the energy coming out of my chin and my neck flexing and my shoulders pulling down. I'm feeling where the body is flexing. And then I exaggerate and caricature that.
Yes.
And it's the actual feeling of a pose.
Wow.
Rather than just the action of a pose. That's why if you get up and you just pose with a sword, you just do this posing with the sword,
Yeah.
it feels very unauthentic.
Yes.
But Ethan Becker had a video where he said, don't do photo reference, do video reference.
Yes.
It's a very clever piece of advice because what you're doing is you're in the process of swinging something and feeling those muscles flex and getting that action. And that's where you actually get a more authentic pose that has feeling to it. Wow. A little side tip there, yeah.
That just added another layer of respect for animations for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm very much into connecting with characters and breathing life into them. And just knowing that is, wow, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I had some other questions here. Mm-hmm. Okay, this one, I think this is an interesting one. Your YouTube channel is becoming, bigger and bigger, and you have a lot of videos now and a lot of content. But if you could show 18-year-old Adam Duff only one video from your YouTube, which one would that be?
Wow, that's a very good question. Holy smokes. You're making me remember stuff now.
Yes.
That's what my girlfriend's for. She helps me. What's my name again? Adam. All right, Adam. Okay. Let's just show him one video. You know which one it would be? It would be I think it was the first one I did in 2019, the one where I was doing the pyromancer painting.
Okay.
That was the video where I discovered that I needed to do what I felt was right rather than what I felt I needed to do. Right. And that was kind of like the turning point. I'd say that video in particular was the turning point.
Okay.
I remember that. I have it up on my wall. I remember that painting distinctly for that reason, that there was an emotional transition in my brain. And I kind of, the spirit of that experience injected itself into that painting.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good to know. Nice.
Yeah.
We'll try to link it in the description as well if you can.
Oh yeah, go for it.
And another thing that I really wanted to pick your brain about is, and I think you just mentioned it in your recent video, is that mentoring or teaching is not about spewing information at people, right? And I get this feeling a lot now that I'm mentoring people. So I'm mentoring a handful of people, and to my biggest surprise, from day one, I started to realize that mentoring is not about just giving the right piece of information. It's being more of a friend and just being like a true mentor, right? I was looking at it wrongfully, I think. And you've had your mentorship for I'd say 5 years now, something like that.
95, it's 5 years now.
Yeah.
And you being one of my first ever students, I think.
I think I was your first student. Yeah.
Wow.
So you were
second. It was Brandon from.
Oh yeah, it could be Brandon. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Brandon from
Dennis.
New Zealand.
Yeah.
My first of two Kiwis that I've had the pleasure of teaching. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So how do you feel about that? About being a mentor? Is that it's not only just giving advice on fundamentals and whatever, but also being the other aspect of it, right? The other flip side of the coin. It feels like it's more important in a way.
Every student is different, and I think one of the most important things I ever learned as a teacher is that if you want to help somebody, you have to be a good listener.
Yeah.
And I remember watching this TED Talk once where a guy was talking about how people would go into these third world countries and they say, oh, I can see these guys need water. So they build a big water system for them. And they'd all kind of go, thanks. And the guy would go, well, that's freaking ungrateful of you. I just spent $6 million on this thing for you. You're like, yeah, but that's not what we asked for. But obviously you need water. Yeah, but that's not what we need most. Thanks. But we didn't ask for that, right? So it's the act of paying attention. It's the act of being a good listener and realizing that every single artist has very deep, very important obstacles, but everybody's coming from a different angle. I have students that completely struggle with certain things, but are on other levels 10 times the artist that I am. I teach artists that are leagues better than me all the time. But they came to me because they heard something in my voice, or they understood something about the way that I teach that they felt they needed in their own careers. And these end up being very reciprocal kind of relationships where I'm not just teaching, I'm also learning as much. I learn from my students all the time. I learned a lot from you. God, Jesus, I learned a lot from you. And especially technically, like holy smokes. And it's about paying attention to what you feel the stick in their spokes is.
Right.
And focusing maybe it's about discovering who they are artistically. Maybe it's about understanding the right type of career to pursue. Maybe it's about overcoming the burden they put on themselves of being overproductive all the time, or being underproductive. Or maybe it's just a technical issue. On all other accounts, they're perfectly great. They just don't have the fundamentals down pat, and they need to buckle down and focus on those first.
Right.
So it's really the more I teach, the more it's not about just going through the script, because I've been doing this for 5 years. I've taught these classes hundreds and hundreds of times, right? It's about abandoning my script and only tapping into certain parts of my expertise when I realize that gap needs to be filled.
Right.
And otherwise, I'm just listening. And students will generally, if you listen carefully and if you're open to it, if you're truly listening, they'll tell you exactly what they need to grow.
Yes.
They know what they're looking for, but they have to tell you very often.
That's true. Yeah. That's very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have to have the courage to tell it. That's sometimes like a pain point. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've been on both ends of the spectrum. You've taught at brick and mortar schools, right? Where it's usually more people. And now you very intensely do the one-on-one mentorship. Do you feel like one has an advantage over the other?
They both have advantages for sure. Okay. And I think one of the things we take for granted in a brick and mortar school, one which I'm realizing with my daughter who can't go to school, she's in college, expresses to me very regularly, she really misses her friends, you know? And, you know, it's a burden on her not being able to get up every day and hop onto a train and go to school and be with her friends and all that kind of stuff. It's, you know, that's hard.
Yes.
That social aspect is definitely important. Now, it depends on what you're looking for. I think that if you need accessibility and you need to really tailor a specific type of teaching style to what you're looking for, if you can find a personal connection with somebody online and you're not starving for the social side of things, then that's where online could be a huge advantage, because you can learn from anybody on the planet. I teach students from, like you, I teach students from every different corner of the planet, and that's wonderful. And I do create very authentic, very meaningful relationships with my students. It's not just superficial. But I would say the big thing for schools is the social aspect. Being able to physically touch and see somebody with your eyes, not through a screen. There's a very big difference in energy, in the energy you're sharing with other people when it's in person. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and that's also usually we draw our best when we feel good, right?
Yep.
And I don't know where I got this piece of information, but I heard from someone that for your mental health, you need at least 4 social contacts a day.
Really?
Yeah. It's kind of interesting, right? And also there was recently a TED Talk about the longest study in history, a 75-year study. The 5th director of that study was presenting the TED Talk, and they were observing happiness. And so they interviewed thousands of people from all ages up until their death, actually, and they had to fill in questionnaires. And the happiest people at their deathbed or at the end of their life cycle or whatever, they were the people with the most friends. Not the people with the most money or whatever, the people that had the most social interaction. And they might have gone through a lot more shit in their life than the, I don't know, wealthier people or more, fortunate people. Yeah. But they were still the happiest.
Yeah. They had buddies to go through that with. Yeah. God, I can't explain. I'll tell you something, especially with kids, young kids who are growing up in the age of social media and video games and digital entertainment and stuff like that. I can see how stressful that is.
Yes.
for them, because what it's doing is it's not allowing you to outwardly express your feelings. And you're being babysat by this technology. And you start to see the loneliness creep up on people, and you start to see the stress build up on people. And then when you do actually sit down and go for a drive with my kids and go and do things and just spend time with them one-on-one, and we have these good talks, amazing how much emotion comes out.
Yeah.
In those, they're so precious. These times where we spend time together are so precious, because no matter how many people you're chatting with online, you're not getting that real human connection. And I think that social media needs to evolve past what it is today.
Yeah.
Because right now it's distracting people from their feelings. It's not helping people to discover themselves. It's helping people to suppress themselves. I really feel that. And I think that I can see where, like, as much as I'm not a huge fan of Mark Zuckerberg or anything like that, or Facebook, he was talking to Marcus Brownlee recently about the future of tech, and where Zuckerberg was talking about how it's making a more of a kind of an augmented reality type of thing, right? Where it's just an enhancement, but it's not taking away from the human experience.
Right.
He wants people to look away from the screens and look at each other and have that human interaction. I think that's going to be revolutionary on a technological level, but also on a personal level. Right. I think it might help to bridge that gap, because there's an imbalance right now. Yeah. It's an exciting, interesting technological one, but it's on a humanitarian level, it's not, right?
No, it's very true.
Yeah.
Now, going back to being an artist, as of today, you are kind of considered the art father of YouTube, right?
Where the hell did that come from?
I don't know. I read the comments, Adam. It's just you have been stamped the art father.
Like David Attenborough speaking about the troubles of art.
Exactly. Yes. But now, also being an actual father in real life, how has that changed your view on being an artist?
It's changed every aspect of who I am. It's made me a patient person. It's taught me about patience. It's taught me about not being self-centered. When a child teaches you that, they're constantly demanding something of you. I've got 3 kids. I've always got, the minute this call's over, Daddy, are you done? Yeah, I want to show you something, Daddy. We want to watch this anime with me, Daddy. You want to do this? Daddy, can you watch me play video games? Something like that.
Right.
And so it teaches me to be a better listener. It teaches me to be more patient. It teaches me to be more thoughtful. It's given me depth. It's made me a more compassionate, empathetic person. It's taught me how to be a good listener. It's taught me how to learn how to heal others. It's taught me how to also respect my own space and my own time. So if Daddy needs to work, I have to. It's taught me how to.
Do you think that has helped you with accepting like your tempo that you've been talking about as an artist? Because you're really patient with your work, right? That's some of my crutches. I'm very impatient with my work. If something needs to be done, it needs to be done that day, or at least within a couple of days. And you can really like zone into a piece of art, take months with it if you need to. So do you think that being a father helped with that patient aspect?
It's funny you're saying that, because one of the main paintings I did, where the longest painting I ever painted was stretched over 6 months.
Okay.
And it's stretched over, I've never done anything like that since, but the reason it took that long was because I was a stay-at-home dad for 6 months.
Wow.
So I didn't work, and it was my King's Harem painting. And I decided inspired by Bouguereau, I was going to paint a 7-foot painting where you could walk up and see details close up to it. Never got it printed because it'll cost me like $3,000 to get it printed. But it slowed me down significantly and forcefully, but it allowed me to kind of step away, come back to a painting, think about it a little bit more, leave, come back. And when I started to discover that rhythm of art, I also started to discover more in depth artists like Bikshinsky,
right.
The Polish artist.
Yes.
And you watch his video diaries, and he's like that. He would just kind of spend a couple of minutes on this one, and then he'd go to that one. He might abandon that one. This one he'll spend 7 hours on. This one he'll spend a couple, right? And it kind of made me realize that tempo is not, is only unfamiliar to modern day artists. If you look at a lot of classical painters, they could spend years on a painting without even giving it a second thought. That was very commonplace.
Yeah.
In modern day society, in the industry that we live in today, that kind of tempo, that kind of speed is very idealistic, and good luck finding a job with that tempo. It's not going to happen. Okay.
Yeah, it's almost impossible. Yeah.
But I think that everybody owes it to themselves to have a side project that's a labor of love, something that takes time, something that's got to be the best of what they have on the side. And in the meantime, have the more daily projects that help you to develop your speed and efficiency. Yeah. I think you need both, though.
I think that's a good idea. Because from what I assume is that your King's Harem is still one of your favorite paintings, right? I mean, it's a gorgeous piece of...
It was for a long time.
All right.
But no, not it's funny you're saying that, because it's something I teach my students now that I didn't teach my students a couple of years ago, is the more you learn, the more you realize, the better you get art, the more you realize detail, time, effort does not necessarily result in better results.
That's true.
It's about focus. It's about understanding the fundamentals. It's about delivering the information to your audience that they're looking for. King's Harem was a selfish piece. Nobody needed all that detail. There's diminishing returns to that level of detail. If you put a Bouguereau next to a Sargent, they're both great. Sargent used very loose brushstrokes. As Marco Bucci said, you can count his brushstrokes, right?
Yeah.
Very loose brushstrokes, very suggestive, very focused on form and things like that. Where Bouguereau would sit there and paint all the little fine baby hairs on a girl's ear and the reflection in the ivory on her gold earring. You look at them side by side, they're both great. I can't say one's better than the other. So time does not equal better. It just equals it's just a style choice.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. That kind of opens a can of worms for me, because I'm the same in the fact that I love vignetting for like a Dean Cornwell and stuff like that, where the canvas is unfinished and you're left with, I
love that too. Yeah.
Yes. But that seems to dominate on social media these days, like unfinished, like very, I don't know, ambiguous work, maybe, I don't know have you watched the Netflix series, The Social Dilemma?
No, not yet.
Okay, you definitely should. It's like you'll have a couple of videos to make about that. But it also goes over the fact that AI is steering our brain and our affinities for stuff to a certain extent. Okay. So, like, could it be that all this social media and all these algorithms are... That's why some of my recent doodles, right, are maybe that popular, because people think that they like that most.
Interesting.
Because they have been trained, let's say, to really like that sort of art.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense.
Which is, right, all at the cost of AI these days. Whereas if you look back to like a Paul Bonner and those guys, they had very, very detailed pieces, and they're still considered one of the best guys in the industry. But maybe Paul Bonner with his art today wouldn't get through to the algorithms, right?
Yeah, maybe not.
So
maybe not. Yeah. Here's you are opening a can of worms. As soon as you said that, it made me think of David Attenborough, who I just did an absolutely flawless interpretation of, impression of just moments ago, right?
So, yeah.
Thank you. I agree. But that he just joined Instagram, and
I heard that story.
Had over 1 million subs in a day, or 1 million followers within a day. He's old school. He's old tempo. He's calm. He's thoughtful. He's precise. He's emotional. He's as old school as you can get. He's the Queen's bestie, right?
It's true.
And look at how much the world loves him. And it was it's not a result of algorithm. It's a result of being loved.
True.
He's a loved man, right? And that's what got him that attention. So there's difference. Look at Marco Bucci. Marco Bucci, like for years he posted videos once every couple of years. If you look at the earlier, I'm not a Fairweather fan of his, because I followed him since day one, And I'm proud of that. Although most people would know, but his subs skyrocketed from day one.
Yeah.
It was just good quality. He was just a nice person to listen to. He's a teacher by trade, so the way he communicates is very intriguing. And regardless of the quantity or the topic of his talks, of his videos, they were very popular based on the sheer quality of them.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's the algorithmic side, like the PewDiePie who posts every day, albeit his quality is great. I think he's hilarious. But and then there's the pure raw quality stuff.
Yes.
And you have to decide which team you're on. They both can benefit, though.
Yes.
Right?
I think that's something interesting that you're saying. I think you have to choose a team.
Yeah.
Go for like the complete authenticity like you're doing, or maybe play the social algorithm game, but be good at it, right? Don't phone it in. Because I think that's what it comes down to or boils down to, is that people pick up on fakeness in a sense, right? He's trying to do a bit too much of that, or he's dabbling into that, but he's not choosing a side. Yeah. So that really makes sense.
It's an organic topic, though. You know, this is a work. You and I are the test bench for this.
It's true.
For this new world of algorithms, it's growing around us. So, I mean, I just think that it's important that there are people like you who are at the helm of this, paying attention and listening to what's happening and focusing on that. That helps to pioneer it moving forward, because God only knows it's so complex. It's very hard to keep up with, right? And it evolves. So here's the thing, too, about popularity. Popularity is very fickle. Yeah. You can dedicate your entire life to being really good at something, and you become the pioneer, you become the top of the top. And then what happens? Tech changes. Next day, you're completely obsolete. And this happens too. And this is where I find this is where the importance of knowing yourself and having to being able to fall back on yourself matters. Yeah. When in my career, going back to the whole topic about doing what's authentic to me. The other reason for it is because at 40, and I'm 44 now, I'm turning 45 this year, you start to see recurring themes. You start to see trends come back. Right. And it makes you realize, like, if we go back 10, 15 years ago, if people dressed or acted or listened to 1980s music, you'd be laughed at.
Yeah, that's true.
1980s was dorky, goofy shit. Up until about a decade ago. Now there's Stranger Things and Tron Legacy, and everybody's going 80s retro. Yeah. It's a big popular thing now. You know, for the same thing to say about the 70s. 70s was, if you were around in the 70s, it was the tackiest, ugliest, like armpit hair, skinny, white, pale guys with their nasty, scraggly, dark beards and sweaty, oily shit, and freaking brown corduroy and mustard color was popular. Ugly ass.
I like how you make it so vividly.
It was so freaking ugly, you know? But they resurged it and made it trendy, and they brought back the bell bottoms and the high top shoes and the long hair and all that shit. What goes around comes around. And when you stay true to us, when you have a certain fundamental core of you that you hold on to, you say, this defines me. Trends will change and I might evolve with it a little bit, but this is my core. It might lose popularity for a little while. Instead of abandoning it and saying, oh shit, I gotta let that one go and redefine myself. No, keep riding it, and it'll go and then it'll come back. And when it comes back, you've got a decade of material there that is going to be discovered by your audience. Right. When it becomes popular again. And think of the popularity is in waves, and you've got to be ready for that wave when it comes. Right. And that's what I'm discovering with myself. I held true to certain fundamental parts of my passion of who I am. So it'll lose popularity, but then when the wave picks up, I'm there. And you go, oh, did you see Adam's stuff? He did this 10 years ago. He's so legit, right? Compared to all those copycats that start to research because they want to do that kind of stuff too. Yeah. Not that anybody's copying my stuff, but I think
people
realize
are. I think people are. Some of my students are. So
you're very sweet.
No, they are because they wanted to ask me some questions. But
okay, cool. Yeah. Well, here's a fun fact for you, Antonio. Do you know how many students sign up for my class saying, "Is Antonio teaching the class?"
Really?
They think that you teach at Lucid Pixel.
Well, I'm an ambassador for Lucid Pixel, so.
Well, no, because and they get disappointed when I say no. It's just me. Like, oh, okay, thanks, bye. They want to learn by you, so that's pretty cool.
Well, maybe there's a business plan there.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Yeah.
So, we're coming into the last questions, but this may be still a heavy one on the topic of dealing with adversities, right? Your YouTube channel has become well known for its in-depth talks about dealing with adversities as an artist. And I'm gonna make it a little personal here.
Yeah, of course.
When we teach as artists, I like in the 9 months of teaching Art-Wod, my art level has skyrocketed. People might not see it, but I see it. And I think like you have the same thing. And now that you're doing those videos on YouTube, I think you are learning a lot more as well.
Yeah.
Right? So how has that helped you with your recent adversity where you felt victim to being hacked, right? Where you just talked about it, tech change, or you suddenly things get cut off, right? Yeah. How has that weaponed you against that adversity?
Well, here's the thing. There's always different phases of reaction. When I first realized I got hacked and I wrote back to the guy, because he's still giving me tech support. I'm still trying to figure out why this file he sent me wasn't working. It was working behind the scenes. When I finally discovered it, and I got that first, when I said, are you hacking me? Because at that point I got a notification that my Google account had been, the security alert went off. And he sent me back a little cartoon angel going, oopsies. That's what I got back as a reply from him.
Right.
And I was like, oh, you little cocksucker. My original reaction was panic.
Okay.
And it wasn't it was the YouTube channel. Yes, absolutely. It was a YouTube channel. That was definitely like a scary thing. But this other scary thing is that, it's not the only thing you do on Google. Google's a very centralized hub. And when you lose Google, there's a lot of other things tied into that.
Yes.
So there's a lot of other frightening things too that came of it. So from my first initial reaction was panic. And then you're talking about adversity, right?
Yes.
My emergency mode kicked in.
Okay.
And the emergency mode is, it's like in case of panic, break glass. And that feeling was, okay, it's happened. Adapt. Stop the panic attack and just think about what's happening. And I realized, okay, paint the worst case scenario. He deletes all the videos, blah, 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 blah. Okay, can I live with that? Yeah, I can live with that. Can I start from scratch? Yes, absolutely. My house hasn't blown up. I still have my studio. I still have me, right? And I thought, okay, if worst case scenario, if he deletes all of my videos and all my content, then I'll just start from scratch and I'll start better.
Yes.
I'll have a fresh start. And I decided that within the first 5 minutes of being hacked. And from that point on, I immediately turned my lens from worrying about the outcome of me to taking a position of empathy, because it's extremely damaging and scary and unpredictable being victimized by your enemy.
Yes.
But it's not when you're being victimized by somebody who you can empathize with, right? So I realized at that particular point, instead of worrying about me and what's happened to poor little Adam, what put that guy in a position to have to hack me in the first place? Because I really was talking to somebody who's cool. I mean, he was a nice guy wherever he was. I think probably somewhere in India. I'm not sure. I believe so, because there's a lot of Indian videos that surfaced after that. But as soon as I did that, it changed my relationship with him, and it changed his tone with me. And whatever decisions however that influenced his decisions moving forward, I don't know. I did eventually get my channel back through Google and all that kind of stuff. No long-term damage was done, but I came to accept it. And I said, hey, fuck it. If I lose my arm, excuse me for swearing. I know this is going to go on YouTube. You can bleep that out.
Go ahead.
No, but I don't want you to get demonetized for that. But if somebody cuts off my arm, then I'll draw with my other arm.
Right.
Right. You adapt to your circumstances. Nobody I've ever dealt with flawless circumstances. Everybody's got some kind of a struggle to deal with.
Yeah. And
adapt. Adapt to the best of your ability. And if you can only draw at 75% of your capacity, that means you're still improving at 75% of your capacity.
Yes.
And that's fine by me.
It's exactly why I asked you that question about overcoming adversity, because I wish I would be able to handle the situation like you did. Because I would have been, well, knowing myself, that's something that I'm starting to discover. I know myself, I know my humanity. And I think I would have stayed in panic mode a lot longer than you did.
And so how long would you stay in panic mode for? How long do you think that panic would last?
I think my panic would turn into anger more or a lot longer. And going into attack mode, right? Like right away, instead of backing off, having empathy, which would, like in art, I think I would do it. When, you know, I lose clients or whatever, or something isn't working, I learned to do that. But in other aspects of life, I think I still would have been in that anger mode. And I'm not sure how I would have handled it. I probably would have watched a couple of Adam Duff videos and I would have been fine.
Well, here's a question for you then. What would that anger have solved?
Probably nothing.
Now that person's victimized you and you're pissed at them.
Yeah.
You did this to me. I didn't deserve that, right? That's your reaction.
Yes.
That's why people get angry. Somebody did something to you that you feel you didn't deserve.
Yes.
The reason why you're reacting that you feel you didn't deserve it is because you didn't have faith in your own quality. Right?
Right.
Think about it.
Makes sense.
Somebody, you walk down the street and somebody looks at you and goes, what happens? I know what I would do. I was thinking, why the fuck did that guy look?
Yeah.
What did I do? What did I do? And I'm sitting there and my mind's going on. And then I get into a fist fight with the guy in my imagination, you know, and all this, the epic one-liner, and then I knock him out type of thing. But in reality, if you can, when you find yourself in a position where you're being attacked or you feel something unfair has happened to you, you have to stop and ask yourself the question, did I objectively do anything wrong? Did I do anything to deserve that? No, I didn't. Or yes, if you did something to deserve it, then say, yeah, I realized I messed up and I need to fix it and be an adult about it and fix it. But if you objectively can say, no, I didn't do anything wrong, then there's no reason to be angry. It's them that did it.
Yeah.
Right? They did it. You're suffering consequences for it, but it takes away from that feeling of the unfairness, the injustice. It's no longer an injustice.
That makes sense.
It's just something that sucks.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Right? And you're much more likely, if you think about it, much more likely to resolve the problem by not making them an enemy. Because by making them an enemy, then it's you against them, and they've got the upper hand.
Yes.
But like they say, keep your enemies closer, right? So if somebody if let's say you're talking to somebody on customer service and they're just shitty customer service and they're saying, I understand, sir. I'm sorry you're frustrated, sir. I know that you're really having a hard time, sir. If you treat them like cold pieces of crap that are not taking you seriously, then you'll talk to them as such.
Right.
And when you're treating somebody like an enemy, they're not going to do anything to help you. But as soon as you turn that around and you say, listen, I understand you're trying to do your best and blah, 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 and you show some empathy towards them, they immediately put their nail file down and talk to you like human beings. Yeah. You see them, they see you. Yeah. And that's, if there's any way to resolve an enemy situation, it's that way, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because there's no other way to do it, right? So you have to control your own energy in that regard.
Yeah. And I think parallel to that, I think you need to learn to do that with yourself as well. When you're having that conversation with yourself as an artist, when something fails, usually the first, reaction is anger at yourself, right?
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. I'm not able to do this. And then, like you said, if you're able to turn that around to empathy and, thinking about the positive things that you're able to do and how much you've evolved. And that's something that I see with a lot of my students is that they struggle with that aspect of being way too hard on themselves, to actually being angry with themselves. So that's
probably one of the most common things you see.
Yeah,
they'll apologize to you for not doing art that they felt was good enough, and you say, "Why are you apologizing to me?
Yes.
You didn't let me down." But they do. They feel like, oh, now it's exposed. My ugliness is exposed, right? And it's a vulnerable feeling. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Last question, Adam, because we're going to wrap it up. I can talk to you forever. Since this is Art-Wodcast and it's all about teaching and learning, I just want to know from you if there is one book that you would need to recommend and one tutorial. They can be separate. What would they be?
One book and one tutorial. Huh. A learning, like as in a learning resource book, or just a book in general?
You can pick whatever.
Well, okay. I'm not gonna. As far as learning books, my personal preference when it comes to learning is video. I like to see demonstrations of things. I like to see the handwork.
Yes.
But as an art book
Yes.
that I can very strongly recommend is one that I'm going to be releasing this week. I'm doing the review of it this week.
Nice.
I was floored how good this was. The Art of Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh, I want to see that.
No. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I've followed some videos and stuff like that, and it looked cool. It's going to be a fun game to play and everything. But when I saw the thought and research and back, I'm all about story, right?
Yes.
The story, the research, the thoughtfulness, the mixing science and tech and emotion and gang violence and all these different subcultures. It's just like, it's the Lord of the Rings of the future.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't, and it's a contemporary piece too. So my love to Poland and you beautiful artists out there.
I already had high hopes for it because some of my favorite artists work at CG Projekt Red, so I knew it was gonna be, to die for. So
Remarkable.
I'm definitely getting it now. Yeah.
Yeah, like I can't stop gushing about that. Tutorial. Okay, well, I would say this particularly for artists that are more new to the industry and stuff like that, and need somebody who can give them some very good, strong fundamentals. I would very highly recommend Bobby Chu's course at Schoolism.
Right.
He's probably one of the best teachers out there. I mean, you really see his quality as a teacher. And I took his course, even though I was more advanced artist, and I learned such amazing things from him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely recommend Bobby Chu as one of many great ones. But
Great
that's the first one that
resource.
popped in my head.
All right. Thank you very much, Adam, for sharing
that
your
was
knowledge
fun.
and your experience. It was
My pleasure.
very fun. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Gonna wrap it off here. I'm definitely gonna do it again.
Yeah,
because it's one a lot of fun. And
it would be my pleasure to join you anytime you want. Absolutely.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, man. And we'll talk later.
You too. Take care.